Hello and welcome to this celebration of oratory and debate to commemorate the International Human Rights Day that's celebrated every year on the 10th of December. This debate is brought to you by the UN Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. We started this competition with 8 universities. 4 have fallen by the wayside, not because they don't know about human rights issues, but because the 4 that have made it to the semi-final articulated their issues better. Allow me to invite the contestants for the first semi-final, Kyambogo University. Today, Kyambogo University will face off with Gulu University. Our contestants, congratulations on making it this far in this International Human Rights Day debate. Both sides know our motion for today, but we are going to toss a coin to find out who will argue which side of the motion. All right? Heads or tail?
Heads.
Heads? And it is heads. What side of the motion will you take?
We are against.
You are against the motion. All right, so today we'll have proposers on my left and opposers on my right. The debaters today will try to convince you, the viewer at home, the audience here in the Wizards Media Auditorium, but most importantly, the judges, because the judges are the ones who will give marks and determine who makes it to the final. But before the judges give the marks, we would like to understand from the judges what they will look for in today's debate.
Thank you so much, the moderator and the debaters today. This is what we are going to look for today as we are debating. We want to see that every team adheres to these guidelines because it also carries marks. And we want to see your eloquence, verbal and non-verbal communication. We'd want to see how you use your language, your tone, and the ability to engage your audience. Also, we want to see the content, how researched is your presentation, how do you address the topic, how do you keep on the theme. Want to see the group that mentions and notes current affairs. And also would like to note how the quality of your argument and the ability to engage your audience and respond very well to questions once asked. Most important also to note is that you have to keep time. Every argument should be in time. Thank you.
All right, those are our judges, and I'd like to ask them to introduce themselves one by one, starting with the gentleman that just spoke.
My name is ELLY KASIRYE.
My name is DEBORAH, OYELA.
I'm Sandra Mwesije.
The judges have introduced themselves. We will have our contestants introduce themselves. I'll start from my extreme left.
My name is Achai James Ojara from Gulu University, and I'm proposing tonight's resolution.
I'm Lake Gender Fancy from Gulu University.
All right, and then I'll go to my extreme right.
My name is Akampura Ruth from Kyambogo University. We are opposing the motion.
I'm Ayeba Dalton Joseph, and I'm representing Kyambogo University.
All right. On the 17th of July, 1998, 120 states adopted a statute in Rome. This came to be known as the Rome Statute that put in place the International Criminal Court. In May of this year, 2016, the president of Uganda, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, said the International Criminal Court is a bunch of useless people, and he added that he no longer supports it. This growing negative perception of the ICC has spread into other countries of Africa. The perception is that the ICC has become a court of Western powers to persecute African leaders. So today, we discuss this statement. African countries are justified in discussing whether they should continue to subscribe to the Rome Statute that forms the International Criminal Court. We will go first to our first proposer.
Dear judges, ladies and gentlemen in the August House, African countries are justified in discussing whether they should continue to subscribe to the Rome Statute forming the International Criminal Court. Coming as the first proposition speaker, I would like to affirm this statement. My discussion is going to be based on 3 questions. These questions are the objectives of the Rome Statute still good enough to justify the global inclusion of all? Secondly, are there present any alternatives to the ICC that the Africans have? My last question that engulfs my discussion, are there gross weaknesses that the ICC has to justify withdrawal of the African states? Members in the August House, on 17th July 1998, 120 states adopted the Rome Statute. Members in the August House, it entered into force on the 1st July of 2002. And by 1st May 2013, ICC has 122 state parties and 139 signatories. Members of the House. Let me go straight to my arguments why African countries are justified in discussing that they should withdraw from the ICC. To start with, establishment of courts that are competent in the African states to try the cases that ICC is trying currently. Let us take a case study of a country like Uganda. Uganda has the International Crime Division of the High Court that has qualifications which are as equal as a judge in the ICC. That is why the African states like Uganda is justified to withdraw from ICC. It has a competent court with judges that are as competent as the ones in ICC. Why should we then still be part of ICC, members in the August House? Another line of argument, the ICC has shown gross weaknesses, members in the August House. Let us look at ICC has no police, it has no army, ICC has no prison, ICC depends on the cooperation of the state parties, members in the August House. Let us give an example of Omar al-Bashir. Has ICC arrested Omar al-Bashir? The arrest warrant was released. Omar al-Bashir has been moving in state parties of the ICC. For example, he has been to Malawi, he has been to Kenya, he has been to Congo, he has been to Uganda. He attended the AU summit in South Africa in 2015. If he is a threat to the nation, why hasn't the ICC arrested him? Why does he have to move in state parties freely? Therefore, African countries are justified if ICC cannot arrest such a threat to the society, members in the August House. Another argument in line with this why African countries are justified to withdraw from the ICC is that the crimes which are committed, which are prosecuted under the ICC starts from 1st July 2002, members in the August House. Have you seen a case study of northern Uganda? How many atrocities were committed before 2002? And ICC does not try those crimes. Let us look at crimes committed in Balonyo in northern Uganda. Let us look at the crimes committed in different parts like Pabo, in Amoro.
Your time is up. Your time is up. It's 3 minutes. It's 3 minutes and you have to make your arguments fit in that time. I will go to the first opposing argument.
Thank you very much. Today's proposition seems to tell us 2 major things. One, that ICC actually does not possess the ability, and secondly, that the internal courts can manage the problems that ICC is dealing with. She talks about the courts in Uganda. The major objectives of the ICC are to check war crimes, crimes against humanity, and acts of genocide. This is according to the Rome Statute that is responsible for its establishment. I want to know from still the proposition whether an internal court will be able to check genocide in a nation where genocide has acted. If it were so, wouldn't we have had the people of Rwanda, where we had the genocide tried justly? If it were so, would we have people going against their leaders and they are taken as terrorists? They are taken to be wrong people. These courts internally cannot help, and the introduction of the ICC is to check the areas in which these courts cannot manage, especially on the international scene. Another thing he tells us, another thing she talks about is that the ICC has no police. She does not seem to understand that even the government has organs of functioning. When you talk about ICC is introduced in 1998 to introduce a judicial arm of the UN. it is not any person, it is not any judicial's responsibility to capture anyone who has been considered a terrorist or genocide. The duty of the ICC here should be known that it is to determine that you are guilty of a crime of genocide. And what is to be done is by the Security Council of the UN, not the ICC. Today's debate will come to two major questions. One, whether we can argue, because Africans want to exit the ICC. So we should consider major things other than rotate, we go around. One, can we argue out the fact that the areas in which the ICC has intervened in Africa, in Darfur, you see ICC in Kenya, after people have died, post-election violence, people have died. You see it also in northern Uganda. Can we justify, can today's proposition just tell us that these cases actually do not deserve ICC's intervention? And if it doesn't, what have their internal courts done about it? What did the internal courts do about Konyi's actions in northern Uganda? People are dying. So it is the ICC's duty to check these atrocities, and especially when our internal courts cannot manage. Unless we can argue out that ICC is here for the wrong, then we still have the idea wrong. Another question would be, this brings up the question of where there is a need to worry about our susceptibility to justice. I don't see any reason whatsoever that you should get worried that you are susceptible to international justice as long as you are clean. If you are clean before the law, why should you worry that ICC has come?
Your time is up. You have a chance right now to ask the first proposing debater a question.
Thank you very much. Do you think we can rely on internal courts sort of internal crime?
Very well. That is why we are relying on the International Crime Division of High Court, where OYELA is being prosecuted from.
Do you have another question for her? Because there's still time. That was a short answer.
Oh, thank you. If this has happened, you give us examples of crimes of genocide or examples of crimes against humanity or war crimes that have been tried by the internal court.
Thank you so much. OYELA, who is being tried in the International Crime Division of the High Court, committed war crimes and crimes against humanity in Pabo and Lalogi Iramoro district in northern Uganda. And he is being tried by the International Crime Division of the High Court, which is extremely competent. Thank you.
All right. Do you have a question for the first opposing?
Yes, I have three questions. To start with, you talked of Rwanda genocide. Has ICC tried the perpetrators of the Rwanda genocide?
And now this is about the jurisdiction of the ICC. This question seems to ask why the ICC has not tried any criminals that have been in the past. ICC was introduced in 2002.
That shows the weakness of ICC.
Just hold on.
Excuse me, can I first answer the question?
Yes, please. Go ahead and respond to your question.
It is without ICC's jurisdiction that it tries cases that have been in the past before it has occurred, before it has been put into existence. There is no way it will try them. You tell me cases where ICC has failed in Africa, those that they have aimed at in Africa that it has failed.
The second one is, what is the difference in the case scenario in Uganda? What is the difference between the International Crime Division of the High Court in Uganda and the ICC?
Thank you
case
very
scenario
much.
Uganda.
This question seems to tackle the area of impunity. In Uganda, the President of the Republic of Uganda has almost all rights to appoint judges everywhere, in every court. In the Supreme Court, in the High Court, he appoints these judges. And the people who are supposed to say yes, they qualify, are also appointed by him. In a situation where a president knows that I'm going to use an internal court, whatever you can call it, whatever you want to call it, whether international, criminal, or what, but as long as it is within the president's ability, still they can influence it. Okay. And it will not give us what we want.
All right, thank you very much.
She had a third question.
You still have time, so you can. He wants your third question, and you still have time.
Yes, thank you so much. I would like to also ask him that how come the cases before ICC has been African cases? The ICC has been only rumoring and telling us that they are just taking scenarios. How come the cases before ICC has always been African
cases? Another thing we should understand here, Africa's relationship with the ICC is based on three major grounds. 1, misinformation. 2, misinterpretation. 3, misperception. When you say that the ICC is focusing on Africa, your worry should not be that ICC has focused on Africa, but it should be that has ICC gone there for the right cause? If crimes are happening in Africa, If war crimes are happening in Africa, why do you expect ICC to go to USA?
All right, let us. The first speakers have used up their time. Our judges are taking notes, and where there are inaccuracies, our judges will let us know. Let us go to the second proposing speaker.
Yes, thank you so much. I was listening to the discussion from the opposition, and they seem to say that in a family where there is a problem, we should call in uncles and aunties from outside, or even outsider, to come and investigate what is within our house, and then actually regulate what we are going to do, what they are going to do with your children, with your wife, and you as a husband. Now, ladies and gentlemen, our first speaker from the proposition came and gave 3 key questions that are going that we are going to use to judge this, to actually debate this motion. The first one was, are the objectives of the Rome Statute still good enough to justify the global inclusion of all, including African countries? When one of the opposition speakers was speaking, he mentioned USA. And ladies and gentlemen, we know that USA was one of the countries that suffered terrorist acts in 2001. And in retaliation, they went and invaded Iraq, where they killed over 15,000 people. That was during the regime of Mr. Bush. Ladies and gentlemen, where was ICC by then? Is Mr. Bush in court? Have they tried him? Now that brings us to the question that ICC actually targets African countries, ladies and gentlemen. They are after making sure that African countries are checked properly and they don't develop politically, socially, and economically. Ladies and gentlemen, the other question was, are there present any alternatives to the ICC that African countries could have? Ladies and gentlemen, it was mentioned clearly here that we have the International Crimes Division in Uganda, ladies and gentlemen. That is taking care of the case of Thomas OYELA, who was a perpetrator of war crimes in northern Uganda. I'm from northern Uganda, and I understand how much people went through, ladies and gentlemen. I know how much they want justice. Justice can only be defined in the perspective of the person who is a victim. Ladies and gentlemen, Africans are able to solve their own problems. We don't need to take our problems to a different platform out there so that we are criticized as people who are weak, who are dumb, who cannot solve our own problems. We believe that Africa has the capacity to handle their own issues, ladies and gentlemen. And it brings me to the point of sovereignty, ladies and gentlemen. Every African country and every country in the world has the capacity and the independence, ladies and gentlemen, to be sovereign, to make decisions on their own. We believe that when we have our political issues, we are able to solve them as Africans because we caused them. Why should we bring someone who doesn't know the reason why those things are happening in Africa?
All right.
I believe, ladies and gentlemen, that Africa has that capacity. The other question was, are there gross weaknesses that ICC has to justify the withdrawal of African countries? Ladies and gentlemen, this is the question that we are seeking to answer. And of course, we have weaknesses that were brought out clearly. The first weakness was the fact that ICC relies on a complementary policy, where they use state institutions of a country in order to execute their duties. If a country that has actually weak state institutions, it means the ICC cannot work.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Your time is up.
And that is why we are saying, thank you.
All right. We'll go to the second opposing speaker.
Thank you so much, the judges, the August House. I would like to first thank the proposition side for the things they have brought out. And yet, I would want to comment on the first point of the second proposer, who said that should a family, after having problems, bring in the external members of the family to solve the internal problems of a family? The operation of the ICC works in a way that after the internal bodies of a country have failed to tackle the problems, the ICC comes in and then handles the problems, the war crimes. So that's why the ICC comes after the country has failed to tackle the problems. Because for the ICC to operate, it first, the country itself has to either forward the person or the prosecutor identifies the person under the guidance of the Security Council. So don't say that the family problems are handled by external people because the family is not capable or something. The family is first not capable. For example, about your example of the family, we have clan members, clan heads. So if a family cannot handle the problems, it calls in the clan members to come and help them solve the problems where they're not capable. So then I'm going to talk about the point of the ability. The African countries, yes, they feel they should get out of the ICC, but are they able? Are they going to be able to handle these war crimes? Are they going to be able to prosecute these people and handle a fair trial to make sure that these people are brought to judgment? If we look at the African countries, for example, Uganda, we have a lot of issues before. Apart from the crimes that have been committed, we have social issues, we have education, we have health, we have a lot of things that demand our attention and our resources and which should be focused on first before these other things. So if Uganda decides to establish a body that is going to handle the war crimes and crimes against genocide and other things, is it going to be able? Does it have the funds, the technology to handle these things? Answer that. Then, about technology, the people that commit these war crimes, they go to different countries, for example. They travel on a wide range, like Connie. He has been to different countries. He's assumed to be hiding in different places where we are not even sure. So to collect the evidence, to make sure that we bring him to proper trial and justice, we need to go to different places, and we need a lot of resources to do this, to capture enough evidence to bring him to justice. Are the African countries independently able to do this adequately? We should ask ourselves this also. And it was about you talked about the countries. You said that the countries, for the ICC to operate, to prosecute these people, they must have...
Unfortunately, your time is up. However, you have a minute and a half to ask the first proposing debater a question.
Why don't you think these people who have signed and ratified the ICC shouldn't take part and hand in their bodies to help the ICC operate on their duties?
Now, ladies and gentlemen, the major reason Africans should decide is because they have control over their state institutions. We have control over our police. We have control over our army. And therefore, we should decide whether we should give in to ICC or not. What we are discussing here is either whether Africans should decide or ICC has more powers than African governments. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when I say Africans, we as African states should decide because we own our state institutions. I want her to answer one simple question.
Not yet. You're still the one answering.
Yes, I'm going to phrase this in a question. I want her to tell me if there is any police that is owned by ICC, if they have a prison anywhere, or maybe if they have an army.
Thank you. That is a question.
Just hold on. It's not
yes,
yet his time.
And on the other hand,
okay.
I would also want her to explain to us how ICC goes and arrests people in the bush, or if they have ever gone to the bush where war crimes are committed and arrested someone from there and taken them to court.
Okay,
Thank
just
you.
so
Can
we're
I
clear,
answer
are you
that?
now asking your questions? Are those
No,
the
I was
questions you
still
should respond to?
I think you can give me my time. I start asking.
Okay, all right.
I would
Because the
rather-
time that was allotted for your question is done. It's now your turn to ask.
Okay, fine.
Yes, she talked about us having so many priorities, education, health, and several other things. And actually ruled out the fact that the stability and peace of our country is very important. And she says we should ignore the peace and stability by trying war crimes. Now, I want her to tell us very well, without peace and stability within a country that is protected by the state institutions, the police and the army of the country, can we be able to achieve what you're talking about, education and health?
Thank you so much. So we're going to look at what brings peace and stability in a country. Why are people rioting? Why do we have protests? Is it about the war crimes and genocide? No, we're talking about health. Recently, the Mulago has been having problems because doctors are not being paid. They don't have enough doctors, and they do not have what? That is stability. We do not have peace because of the social problems that the country has.
Thank you so much.
We need funds.
No.
We need
She's
these
answering.
funds that could have been diverted to solving the war crimes, or that could adequately be taken care of by the ICC. If we get these funds and channel them to first stabilize our country, because we have, the people that are being currently tried by the ICC, we have Konyi. There is only one person currently in Uganda. But how many social problems do we have? We have a lot. So why don't we rather concentrate on the social problems that we have, channel those funds to those problems, and we first attain a greater amount of stability within the country, then we can focus on the bigger social crimes that ICC, Uganda having subscribed to the ICC, can take care of. Then the ICC handle the big problems that it's signed to handle, instead of Uganda losing the attention on the people that need the attention right now.
All right.
One
Again,
more question.
Unfortunately, no, the time is done.
Okay.
The time is done. I'd like to find out. It is said that justice should not only be done, but should be seen to be done. If African states do not see ICC as being fair and only targeting Africans, shouldn't they have the right to walk away if they don't see justice being done?
Oh, can I answer that? This is what I mentioned before, that it will deal with how informed you are about what ICC is doing in Africa. It will deal with your interpretation of what ICC does and also the perception you have. When you talk about the fact that you are not seeing justice being done, it is as if you are telling me that you do not know that Kenyatta went to ICC and was proven innocent and he was let go. It is as if you don't know that Gagbo went there, was tried, charged, and he was executed.
Okay, executed.
So, oh no. So my major argument is here that ICC, what ICC is, yes, we can blame it for some weaknesses, which are quite visible everywhere. There is no institution that you will expect to work 100%.
Okay.
But whatever it has put hands on, it has been successful.
All right, and if the African states feel their relationship with the ICC has run its course, what should they do? Are they stuck in this forever?
Now, there is no way you start assuming that a statute you signed 14 years ago has gone out of order and therefore you should exist it within the 14 years.
All right.
Now, unless you can prove beyond reasonable doubt that your reasons are outstanding, you should stay.
Okay. All right. The African states that are seeking to leave the ICC were not forced by anyone to sign the Rome Statute. This was something they did willingly. And now in the middle of the march, they want to walk away. Does this really make sense?
Thank you so much. When African states signed the Rome Statute and joined it, they knew it was a strong body. So it is justified that when they have seen the weaknesses of ICC, it is justified enough that they see the exit door and provide a solution to their problem.
Mm-hmm. On the other hand, I would love to say that if you're taking a walk in a country road, then ahead you see dark clouds, I don't think you will continue with your journey.
All right, you gave an example of the United States of America under Bush Jr. Question: does the United States of America actually fall under the jurisdiction of the ICC?
Actually, let me answer that. The United States, or the cases that happened in the United States of America, ICC can still prosecute it if referred to it by the Security Council of the UN. But we are seeing that ICC sits and waits for Security Council where United States sits to refer a case that involves United States to it. That is precisely why the cases in the United States has not been prosecuted.
All right. It's
Yes.
time for you to make your closing arguments. I will start with the proposing side. Wrap up your argument. You have only 1 minute.
Thank you so much. To wrap up my argument, I would say that just as the opposition speaker said about money should be invested in education and the rest, the money that we pay for subscription to ICC, we can still invest it in our country, in education, in the health sector, and the different. They forget that we also, as they are thinking about us spending money on internal courts, we also pay subscription to ICC. We have to see the exit door. Let us ask ourselves, why isn't Russia part of ICC? Why isn't USA part of ICC? Why isn't China part of ICC? Why are African countries withdrawing from ICC? So why should we be puppets in it? If ICC has weaknesses, we have already established competent courts in Africa. Let us see the exit door and solve our own problems. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's hear the conclusions from the opposing side.
Thank you very much. Today's arguments from the position were three major reasons. One was whether ICC has weaknesses, and no one denies that it doesn't have weaknesses. And here they asked the question that, he suggests that ICC relies on member states to perform what it's supposed to perform. And I would want to ask a question, maybe he can answer in his conclusion. Is it wrong that the UN solicits for the army from the different member states of the UN, of the AU rather, to solve the problem in Somalia? Was it wrong? And then the other argument was also the alternative. Do they have an alternative? This one has been clearly put down. There is no alternative because these judicial systems in the respective countries are controlled by the presidents themselves. By giving them the power, we are not solving any problem. Another argument was that is ICC good enough to include them? They also asked the question, and this one was based on the desire and ability. Yes, Africans, we might desire to have the independence, but we must also consider how able we are to effect what our want is. Unless your demand is effective, you cannot purchase.
All right, thank you very much. Your time is done. Your time is done. The judges have heard what both sides have got to say. It is now. The ball is now in the court of the judges.
Thank you, moderator. This has been extremely tough for us. It was so tough because both of you were very good debaters. You're very articulate. You have a good grasp of facts. You both used good examples. You engage with the audience. I mean, you're practically at a tie. And for that reason, we're requesting you to have a tiebreaker. You'll be given 1 minute to make maybe, can I say, a conclusive remark or raise one more argument and argue it extremely well. And then we can make up our minds from that, because otherwise it's very difficult to pick between the two of you.
All right. Trying to separate good
or maybe
from
the moderator
good.
can guide us on the time that they should have.
All right, we'll give both teams a few seconds to prepare to make one more argument, and this argument is what should win the judges over. Our viewers at home, just to understand what happened here, we had a very heated debate, and after the judges did their computations, there was a tie between the two sides. It is now a time for the sides to make closing arguments to win the judges over. We hope that this time we shall establish a winner. We'll go first to the proposing side.
Thank you so much. Members in the August House, the opposers of today's debates accepted the following. They accepted that ICC has weaknesses. They accepted that African countries have alternatives. For example, Uganda has the International Crime Division of the High Court. They accepted that the ICC depends on our police, our corporation, our army, our state institutions that we own. Therefore, that means we are competent enough to try our own crimes. Apart from that, members in the August House, they are failed to prove to us how many outsiders outside Africa has been tried by the ICC, despite the fact that intervention, there was the invasion of Iraq, there was the looting of cultural artifacts in Baghdad, and ICC did not intervene, members in the August House. They have also accepted a fact, which is no longer a rumor, that ICC only tries crimes from 2002 coming now. So why should we waste time with ICC, yet we have so many crimes before 2002, members in the August House?
All right, thank you very much. Your time is up. Your minute starts now.
We did not accept that Africa has alternative. The alternative you provided of courts that are guided by the nations was rejected because we showed that it cannot work. Another thing, ICC depends on police. And we talked about the fact that it is in order that ICC seeks help. Only if you can show to us, or only if they could prove to us that the technology that is used by ICC can only be provided, or that we use only African states in making this investigation, they would take this debate. How can we conclude? Leaving ICC has a long-term impact actually on Africa, because ICC is one of the organs of the operation of the of the UN. Leaving ICC means that you are making yourself susceptible to the fact that you cannot receive some donations from these nations. Because if you are going to give donations according to members who are members of the ICC, we shall first look at who is in the trusteeship council, who is on the Security Council, who is in the ICC, and we shall categorize whom to give and whom not to give. So leaving this ICC would make you susceptible to that.
Your time is up. The judges have made a decision. Let's hear from the judges.
Thank you, moderator. First of all, I would like to commend both universities for having spirited debates and raising the level of engagement today, because we feel like you were very well researched and you were very articulate, and I feel like the audience here and at home definitely has learned a lot more about the ICC than maybe they knew before they came in. So we want to commend you, young people, for doing your research in such a comprehensive manner. It's very refreshing. It was a very difficult decision for us to make because we feel like you're equally good, so the loser should not feel bad about this, because the difference between the two of you is micro inches. So I will say that we're going to give this debate to Gulu University. Simply because they just are so much more passionate about their topic, and it carries to the audience and it makes us passionate as well. So congratulations,
All right.
Gulu University. You proceed to the next round.
Gulu University has made it to the finals of this International Human Rights Day debate. Ladies and gentlemen, watching us at home and you here in the auditorium, we hope that today you've learned more about the ICC. The result of today's debate does not mean that African countries should leave the ICC, but this has given you information on what the facts are. We hope that you continue to read up and to ensure that your country actually respects the Rome Statute that they signed. Before we sign out, the judge has got one thing to say, and then we will close for today.
I am so proud of both teams. You've done so well. Kyambogo, you shouldn't feel bad. There's always another time. But this was one question that was very hard for all of us here. But all I wanted to add is that by the time when the 120 countries had signed or domesticated the ICC or the Rome Statute, things were different then. You imagine you have something for 14 years. Do you still value it the same? Things have changed. We have developed, okay? The whole idea of how we should proceed from the ICC, it's about the timing. Are we ready as a country? Do we have our systems in place? If we don't want to go to ICC, which is in Europe, do we have something in Africa? We have the African Commission for Human Rights. We have the African Court for People and Human Rights. That takes into consideration the African way of doing our things. So that is the other option other than the International War Crimes Division of the High Court. Okay? So other than the ICD in the Uganda High Court, we have the African Court of People and Human Rights and the African Commission for People and Human Rights to guide us. So the whole idea is about timing. Are we ready to handle war crimes, genocide, and crimes against humanity? So it's a food for thought, and it's progress. It's a work in progress. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, our judges and our contestants. Kyambogo University, very good job. Gulu University, better job. You make it to the finals. Please continue to watch so that you can catch the final. We still have one semi-final, so do not fail to tune in to see which university will join Gulu University in the final. God bless you as you wait for the next show.